But hello and welcome to American Family Insurance DreamBank, where we believe in the transformative power of dreams. I'm Madeline, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. For those of you that are familiar with DreamBank, welcome back. And for those of you that this is your first time joining us, welcome. Here at American Family Insurance, we believe communities are stronger and the future is brighter when people are actively pursuing their dreams. That's why we created DreamBank, an inspirational community destination and digital experience dedicated to dreamers everywhere. From our daily event series to immersive signature programs, there's something for every dreamer. Our always free offerings are designed to help you celebrate your dream journey, overcome obstacles, and stay motivated. Now, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker. Anne is a therapist and an AAMFT approved supervisor for Madison, Wisconsin. She works in healthcare, clinical education, and owns her own small business. Her specialties are perfectionism, performance, and working with couples and families. Other areas of interest are her book about self-evaluation and her podcast called Skull Meatloaf. All right, take it away.
Thank you, Madeline. And I'm so happy. I was just sharing that, Madeline, before I jumped on. And DreamBank is one of my favorite talks to do because when you talk about me having a small business, DreamBank, I went there before I started mine. And they have this amazing place in downtown Madison, and there was nobody there. And I walked in because someone told me about it. I went to events, but I went there in person. And there was one dream banker, someone that sits there and talks to you. And we were talking about our dreams and things I wanted. And I said, but I have all these things going on. I want to start this business. She goes, yeah, and. So I say the dream bank is one of the major reasons I've even started my side business, even a major reason I started my podcast. So when you have that yeah and moment, just know DreamBank, sign up for all their events. They're wonderful. No, they didn't pay me to say that either. That is authentic to me that I love DreamBank because what we're going to talk about today, and one of my favorite things to talk about is achieving your dreams, overcoming the things that are barriers to your dreams, things that you want. And today we're talking about a hot topic. Comparison, comparing ourselves to other people. You'll hear the phrase that it's the thief of joy, and that is what we're going to tackle today. And one of my favorite things when I do presentations is giving people a little bit of an overview, because guess what? We only have 30 minutes together today. That doesn't seem very long, but one of the things I am very passionate about is actually shorter presentations. I mean, our working memory will be activated. We'll write down things that excited us, and we're more likely to do them. Do you ever go to something that's 8 hours long and you feel flooded? 30 minutes is something where I'm going to pace it out, where we're going to talk about what you see on the screen. Small amount of time talking about me because this is mostly about you. And we're going to talk about the science of comparison and joy, but we're going to talk about more than that, comparison and joy in real time. Science is wonderful. As a social scientist, I believe it deeply. And as someone that did a lot of neuropsychology work, it impacts us. Yet what control we have and our self-evolution, more than anything, is the most powerful thing. And then we're going to talk about when does comparison become a thief? And the most final thing of things to consider that I want you to talk about. 30 minutes is not very long. So today, I want you to write things down that intrigue you, write things down that interest you, that activate you, that you connect to, align, and ripple it onward, whether in your own work or with other people, because that's what self-evolution is about. And we'll leave time for questions. So a little bit about me. Should I do the face with it? I got the pearls on too. It works. That's in my parents' beautiful, beautiful backyard. So I am a business owner. I actually am a full-time therapist and a clinical educator, both in here at UW-Madison and Edgewood College. And as described, I'm an AMFT approved supervisor, which is a national accreditation that I help future MFTs gain their experience and knowledge to move forward and help others. And then I'm also very proud to say that as of 2022, I have my own business, which is really what this is under, really what my podcast is under, Skull Meatloaf Podcast. But more than anything, you can see that I'm many parts. I have many things that are to me. This is just a small part of me. Yet I told you I don't want to focus too much on me because this is about not just me, us and you. Now, as we start the conversation of comparison, I want you to look at some of these phrases. I want you to look at when we're having that inner dialogue with ourselves, the words that we began narrating within our minds, we started thinking about comparison like they have more than me. And I want you to think about your family members. I want you to think about maybe friends at the workplace, people you're comparing yourself to, but not only that. Sometimes we compare ourselves to our past or who we think we could be. We have difficulty staying in the moment to propel and get unstuck. We're just caught in every space but that one. They have more than me. My life would be good if I had what they had. Or if I only had finances, a house, this different job. Their life looks perfect. Thanks, social media. Super helpful. We'll talk about that. But I wish it could be the way I used to. Why can't you be more like them? Even in our relationships, when we're comparing our own intimate interpersonal relationships to other people and say, how come you can't be more like them? Now, I want you to write down and take a couple minutes, maybe like a minute. What sort of phrases have you said to yourself, even if it's one of these? What phrases have you said to yourself when you're comparing yourself to your past, to other people, your loved ones to other loved ones? What things have you found that you've said to yourself? And I'm going to pull up the chat. I was going to say, I should have asked. If the chat doesn't pop up, I'm going to give you a couple if people want to type. If I had this job, I could provide more for my family. If I had this house or I lived here, it would be different, right? If I had all these other things, things would be different. The if whens, the if ands, they become extremely, right? Overwhelming, right? Yeah, when I have X, then I'll be Y. If I had a better job, that comes up a lot. Financial stressors, the other things that come up, they impact us. Now, what happens, and thank you for those that shared, Ryan and others. Thank you for those, and Danielle, I think I saw. I took the chat down. Hold on. We have Ryan and Mary and Danielle. If I had better with my finances when I was younger, oh, Mary, I can vouch for that one. I can vouch for that one too. So thank you three for jumping in. And what we know is words are extremely powerful. They're not everything, but they're powerful. And here's why, because that inner dialogue will turn into a narrative. A narrative, just like a book. Think if you're writing a book, it happens over time. It's something that with repetition over and over again, this inner dialogue becomes a narrative, and the inner dialogue becomes a code that your brain remembers. It creates shortcuts. If, when, if, and, if I compare. And somehow what we find is that it's not created overnight, this code. But what we must consider, this is our first little tip, is how we recode the brain when we're moving to comparison or when we think about looking at what we don't have. But the most important thing that I can share with you today is the human body and the brain, that they evolve. They're very special. As a therapist, for over a decade, if there's anything that I've realized, people are incredible evolvers. I've seen people overcome and be resilient from beautiful things. And I want you to look here, that inner dialogue, or what you say to yourself. I am a firm believer as a marriage and family therapist that things around us, our systems, people around us, past, present, future, they impact us. So when we talk about the inner dialogue, what impacts it? Your upbringing, grind culture. Grind culture, I talk about a lot with perfectionists. Your relationships, how they've impacted us. And it could be your present. What affects your inner dialogue? The stressors in home life or work or school or your current situation. But not only that, our drive to change and be something, and almost that internal pressure we put on ourselves to have goals and aspirations, or finances, which are extremely huge when people are talking about achieving their goals. So I want to start a little bit. I'll periodically check the chat, so I promise you that I'll check it probably between everyone. Let's talk a little bit about the science of comparison. I told you that I talk about the science and the reality of situations, right? The science of comparison is just a thing, everybody. It's this thing. And it actually has helped us to a certain degree. I know you're going to sit here and be like, I'm talking about conquering, and I don't want to talk about being friends with it. But if you've watched my inner critic work or feeling unstuck, if we don't work with or be friends with things or begin to understand the true science of things, it's difficult to overcome them because we are still evolving creatures. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes repetition. So honestly, when I speak with you and say that comparison is to survive, it's natural, it's expected. Validate yourself a little bit that you're wondering why it's happening. It's social comparison theory, which we're going to talk about. We use it to learn, to gauge ourselves, our abilities, what we want to do. It also to connect with people. Everybody, we are social animals. We have a deep, 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 deep desire to connect to people. Like why you're here today. I know it's not just for you, it's for your family, for your loved ones. The things that we do are to connect and better, whether ourselves, people we love, or the future generation. A sense of belonging is powerful. So when we're comparing ourselves, it's what's in, what's the social norms? How do I do this? And to improve. Comparison is utilized in order to self-evolve, to build confidence, and to be better than yesterday. Human beings, it's a human response to want more, do more, be more. That is a drive that we have. So instead of shaming ourselves and saying, why am I comparing? We're going to talk about when it turns to a level we want to talk about. But social comparison theory came up in the 1950s when more socialization was happening within the 50s. There were more people in schools, at work, everywhere. Things were expanding. Humans were becoming more connected. And any baby boomers that are in here will understand that comparison and looking at social norms was extremely huge from the 50s and 70s. So his research in 1954, Leon Festinger came forward in social comparison theory and said that he was curious how people were basing their value off of people and why comparison was happening. And what his research shows was amazing. And this is important. Remember this. I'm going to give you like little flags here to remember. The level of uncertainty that we have about ourselves, what we do, we are more likely, there's a correlation. Again, it shows, it doesn't prove, shows. There's a correlation that we are more likely to compare ourselves. The more uncertain we are with something, the more likely we are to compare. It is a human response. Okay. So you're like, okay, and here's the reality of comparison. How does social media impact us? I think in workplaces, I think on social media, I think in grind culture, I think that even you look under here, grind culture, exceeds is the new meets. You could go to a business, especially here in Madison, people are brilliant all over the world. They're so brilliant. We have more education and access than we've ever had. So there's a lot of smart individuals. So we often look at how can I be better? What can I do? What's difficult is that pressure becomes higher because that grind culture and social media impact, it's right in our face. It says on here, access to others. More than ever, comparison is extremely real, extremely loud because it's right in front of us all the time. It's very, very, very difficult to ignore it. So when it says it's hard not to, here's another social science thing. Primacy and recency effect means the first thing that you saw and the last thing. Most of the time, our access to media, to people, to our work, it's the first and last thing we see in the day, so it stays in our mind. If you notice you're obsessing at night or in the morning, or you're having difficulty going to work because you're thinking about those things, it's hard not to. I'm looking at the chat now. Thank you for all your chats. Everyone's so critical. I could feel happy. I love these. Oh, I wish I didn't say that. Very, very good. I just realized, hello, everybody that's in here. You're right. All those comparison things can potentially affect our level of joy. Now let's talk about joy, and you will see my face change with this topic. I was very lucky to grow up with a family that small joys were huge. Small joys were huge. It didn't matter. On the roughest of days or tragedy, the family would come forward and say, and a lot of the times people would say, well, is it dismissive? Is it toxic positivity? No, it's balance. It's gratitude. And the power of joy and gratitude is another key point in here. So let's talk about the science of joy and why it lights me up. Go to the Greater Good Foundation, Berkeley. Amazing research. You know why joy is important to us. We're comparing often to find joy, what we perceive as joy, to find happiness, to find gratitude. So you could see that they're very intertwined. But I'm going to tell you the biggest barrier about joy. In research and in real time, we don't differentiate between joy and happiness. You see that they combine, even in Inside Out, you know, the movie, also not promoting it, just like I already know. Disney, I love you. Full credit to Disney. That joy and Inside Out, she's a primary emotion. Yet what we're seeing in research now is rather than seeing joy as an emotion, seeing it as a state of being, as a choice, as something you can grab onto with power and control. I'm going to give you another example on the other side of the coin. Loneliness. Loneliness is a feeling. You could be in a sea of people and feel lonely. It's a feeling. It's valid. Yet the state of being alone, it's a state of being. So when we see happiness as an emotion, something we experience that moves with us, that transfers, then we go to joy as a state of being. Loneliness is an emotion we feel, yet we don't need to be alone. We don't need to physically be alone. And honestly, here's the other thing. People can be alone and not be lonely, not feel lonely. People can feel joy and not be happy. They can have a state of being of joy and not feel happy. But when we differentiate those, we now get at something that we can control. And that's something to take away from today, too. And even theologists, when we go into science meets spirituality, and this is just believing in something bigger than yourself, but theologists discuss joy as a virtue and a value, something that we can control, something that's important to us. And it's important when we talk about joy and happiness, there are cultural implications. So please recognize your own upbringing and cultural implications about how joy and happiness what you experienced in your own life. But here's the thing, joy ripples. This is all science. Joy ripples, kindness ripples, smiling at people ripples. It raises people up. So you want to know why we're seeking it out? It's strongly correlated to resilience, not just in a person, but in families and in communities. Gratitude and joy as a state of being raise people up. It promotes perspective, creativity, clarity, community, kindness, sense of belonging, and sense of purpose. This all helps. And this is to motivate you to be like, okay, I'm going to understand comparison so I can gain these state of beings. So here is the reality of joy. When you begin to understand that happiness is an emotion, it ebbs and flows. It's something we experience. It's meant for short spurts. I tell people in my Skull Me Love podcast all the time, divorce your obsession with happiness, because happiness, we need it in order, we need sadness and fear to feel happiness. We need those things. That's not toxically positive. It is a reality that we have all these range of emotions. It's what makes us beautiful as creatures. Most people come to therapy because they're combating the reality or science of people. And I look at them and say, if you understand that the range of emotions is a gift, to have gratitude for it. You don't need to be happy you have pain or tragedy, yet you can have gratitude for who you've become because of it. So when happiness is an emotion, gratitude is a practice. Look up the science of gratitude. It's huge. It's massive. But it takes a lot of time, attention, and repetition, which is a barrier for people because we're very busy. And this next one, you read it right. The joy is a choice. So when we talk about comparison and achieving your dreams and things that you want, we're going to talk even more about how joy is a choice. Happiness is an emotion, gratitude is a practice, joy is a choice. And when you recode the brain, I need you to know above anything else, and I tell my patients this too and their families, that we are social animals that are evolving. We can always change, we can always grow. Yet when we get caught up in those comparison cycles, that takes the energy away of you building your own narrative. So when you're like, that's all great and dandy, and I want to know when does comparing yourselves to other people, when does it become the thief of joy? When we hear it a lot. Hear it a lot. Culture, relationships, social media, the workplace, push, 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 push. What if you're more like this? Here's this. We're going to be doing this. When you think it a lot, pardon me, when you think it a lot, repetitive words occur. And I'm going to read it word for word because it's important. Repetitive words occur. Repetitive words become a narrative. Those narratives, that book that we're writing, becomes a mindset. A theme, if you're reading a book, becomes a theme. And from there, those mindsets become belief systems. I'm never going to be as good as them. This is never going to happen. I'm never going to have peace or relief or what I want. I'm never going to be the person that I used to be or that I wanted to be. And those belief systems become a way we live. So when we say that, that brain codes that information. The brain is powerful, and that patterns and repetitions becomes a perceived reality rather than the actual reality. We call about just like stress management, stress versus perceived stress. But if these things are done and experienced a lot, it's really hard for the brain not to believe it. So our job, you're going to hear me say this is a part of what I call the conversion to the long-term memory. You're going to take what you will from this talk, okay? You're not going to take everything. It's 30 minutes of information. Yet if there's anything I want you to remember today, is happiness is an emotion. It comes and goes. When you find yourself hyper obsessing over it, it's meant to move with us and come and go. Gratitude is a practice. If you haven't considered it, there's apps like 5 Minute Journal, there's other gratitude apps, and there's a few questions that they ask you to prepare for your day and to sum up your day. I started just every day doing a gratitude practice, and I noticed I felt lighter. I knew all the science of it. I knew that it worked, but I felt lighter. Not toxically positive, I could say I felt gratitude. And I began opening up the door for joy, daily joy. And when you see it as a state of being that we have power and control over, we have freedom now. We have freedom in our hands to have our dreams, to have the things that we want, to take control in an everyday life and discontinue that obsession with, I need to be happy all the time. You can have gratitude and you can have joy, even if you're not happy all the time with where you are. Happiness is an emotion, gratitude is a practice, joy is a choice. So I want you to consider a couple things here that are barriers that I know people come with in the work that I do. I'm going to check the chat really quick. Hold on. What is grind culture? That's a very good question. I'm going to leave that in a second here because that's a really, really, really good question. What was the website you gave us talking about joy? Oh, it is called the Greater Good Foundation. Look up the Greater Good and Berkeley. Greater Good Foundation. They do a whole bunch of research. Anytime I'm having a tough day, I go there. Anytime. And thank you for your patience, Teresa and Cheryl. And Teresa, I promise you I will talk about grind culture more because it's a big one. It's a big one. And this is kind of a part of it too. Some things I want you to consider as you leave today, things to think about. If you even like when my book comes out and things like that, I really want everybody to realize I don't give answers. I don't say that this is the key to life. This is the secret. What I can say is freedom of thought and giving you a few bits of information from science to reality in real time and say, what connected to you and what do you want to look into more? And I want you to consider this, okay? Pedestals. When you're comparing yourself, your dreams, other people, your past, pedestals. And you can put in the chat, how many of you have pedestaled somebody else? Not just admired them, but pedestaled them. I need to be like them. That pressure, I need to be like them. I need to do this. I need this to happen. They're exactly who I want to be or exactly where I want to be. It is one thing to admire people. It is another thing to pedestal them. Your narrative is completely different from theirs. So when you are thinking about, I wish I had, or if I did this, or if I that, human beings sitting in therapy with people, I could have similar experiences with 6 clients back to back, and they'll all be experiencing emotions, their dreams, their goals differently because they're different people. So part of comparison is a little bit, it's natural, but when it turns into an obsession, when it turns into something that it's hard to break, that's when you're saying to yourself that maybe that's not helpful. The other thing is jealousy. Jealousy is an emotion, everybody. It is an emotion. It is an emotion people feel. It is natural. We get a lot of kind of jealousy when people come in relationships. I'm jealous at her. I'm jealous. And people share and they mean, why are you jealous? Why is that? Why is this? It is a feeling. It's on the feeling wheel. It's secondary/tertiary, but it is on the feeling wheel that people, it's one thing to feel jealous. I put be jealous. Let's put feel jealous of someone or something. Yet it's another thing to be obsessive or possessive. That's when it's crossing over, when you find yourself just ruminating about something else rather than being in the moment. So it's how you observe to yourself, like, am I feeling jealousy or am I being obsessive about this? And the third thing is, I am a huge fan of social media breaks. Now, if you are someone that you are on social media and it is not making you feel good, okay, it's not that you, not so much you're having an emotion. Not saying that. You can have emotions, they're natural, let them come and go. Yet if you're obsessing over it and you are now, it's affecting your mindset, your words, the things that you're saying, it's okay to take a break and come back to the world and talk to people you know and discuss those things. Yet social media is perceptive. People that are actually influencers or creators online will tell you that that's the perception that they want for themselves and for people to see. They will tell you openly that is not their life. And it's not. It's a picture. It's a picture of a life. So the other thing too, this is just my little plug and my supportive space here. That if you notice you've gone to friends, you've gone to these talks, you have exhausted your resources and you still feel like you're obsessing or being possessive over things or that it's becoming too far, not only people we love and loved ones, but just know you're not alone and seeking out help, whether from a therapist, a coach, coming to DreamBank events, things like that. Like we all need help sometimes with that. And I do, this is my little plug because I'm really proud of them. Talking about inner critics and feeling unstuck, I have two other talks on here that I absolutely like love. Where do we find your dream pigs and consider? Oh, where do we find? Thanks, Cheryl. I love that you're so interactive. Cheryl, you're so interactive. I love it. Okay. Where do we find your DreamBank talks? Please consider slide. That's a good question. So I know they were on YouTube. I know that Madeline, if not, I know that they were on YouTube and they
I believe they still are.
we'll find them.
Yes. And then this one will be up on YouTube as well. I would like to say I'll have my life in order and it'll be up on Friday. So that is the goal. But yes, sorry to answer that, but they should all live on
No, that's
the
good.
page along with other inner critics, webinars and sessions like that. So an abundance of resources. I'll go off camera now.
Love it. No, thank you. That was perfect. Perfect. So as we're, and thank you, Madeline, and thank you all Dream Bank crew. They're great. So on YouTube, but we'll figure all that out. So considering the narrative. So here's what I want you to do as you're leaving today. Okay, little tidbits. I want you to consider the narrative and ask yourself, what is the reality of the situation? What is? Not as you see the little ending line, the perception. But what is the reality? The greatest gift that I gave to myself and my mindfulness work and everything else, even as a therapist, doesn't matter, as a loved one. Not looking at expectations or perceived or comparison, but saying, what is the reality of my situation and what's the reality of theirs? And if I don't know the reality of theirs, I stop. I stop and I say, I have no idea. I saw a snippet of a picture. I saw them at a meeting. I saw them at a training, but I don't know who they are. I don't know what they go through, but what's the reality? What do I know? And be honest. I put here on here, phone a friend and call that friend that for me, it's people like my mom and dad, my sister, my friends, a couple of my close friends, and honestly, my partner. I will literally phone a friend and be like, what is the reality of the situation? Because my mind is just on one today. Have people that are close to you that you can trust that you look at them and say, just be honest with me. Like, what's going on with this? And find those people. So when you ask yourself the kind of third biggest piece of conquering this is the certainty of yourself, who you are, what you believe in, what you value. Because if there's anything that I know I love in the self-evolution work that I've done, my greatest gift or my confidence, my drive comes from knowing myself. What's your narrative? And I'm going to ask you this. Do you like the main character of your story? Because comparison is more likely if you're uncertain with that question. Considerations and honest combos. An honest consideration. And ask yourself, when you're comparing and achieving your dreams and looking at anything, is it helping you? I'll ask myself Like, is this helping right now? And if it's not, I know it's something that I need to stop or change. And if you're wondering if it's helpful, that's when you phone a friend. That's when you talk to somebody. That's when you journal and take time. And I put an honest conversation with yourself about who you are. We will compare more if we're uncertain about who we are. And my greatest golden nugget of all of this is right here. Okay. Not the next page. That was confusing. Really helpful. I zoned you in and then I just tricked you. That's very, very helpful. So this is know when it is a time. This is from a recovering perfectionist that's done 20 years of work on this, that know when it's time to evolve. When you're comparing yourself, know if like, did you just reach a huge goal and you're still grinding? But know when it's time to consider, to change, to evolve and improve, and when it's time just to sit with that you've met a goal, that you've done a good job, and it's time to just sit with it and take in the changes in the world around you. So here's my little buzzkill to the whole thing. Comparison is not the thief of joy. It's natural, it impacts us, and it's present. But joy is a choice. Your narrative, you're the writer of all of this. You're the expert. I tell my clients, you're the expert of your own lives. I'm not here to create a little minion or tell you to think the way I think. It's to bring that freedom of thought and yourself forward and out. And the next thing is sit with and don't submerge with those thoughts. Sit with the emotions and the feelings that you have, but allow your emotions for dinner. Don't let them stay the weekend. Be aware of your obsessions and your submersions and work on them. And other things to consider is self-evolution, that you're not alone. And if you've reached a point where you need that extra help, don't be afraid to reach out to phone a friend or to phone a professional. Don't be afraid to do that. Okay. Now let's open it up to questions.
Have about enough time for like one or two questions since we're at the 32. So if you have to hop off, no worries. But if there is a question, please put it in the chat. It's not like the Zoom is just gonna stop. But thank you everyone for joining. I know I was actually just writing
Thank you.
down invite them for to stay for dinner, not for the weekend.
Yeah.
And I am like literally I just was writing that down, but
Writing it down.
yeah, I don't see any questions coming up in the
I
chat.
think grind culture. I think they wanted about grind culture. Anne, could you please share your full name? Anne C. Tatero. More info about me. I have a website, annctatero.com. I'm on all the social media platforms. So anything at Anne C. Tatero, I'll pop up, including Facebook, Instagram, X, everything. I'm on there. So I'm pretty connected, but I also work at like UW Health. So I say professionally, I work at UW Health here in Madison, Wisconsin, which I'm very proud to say. They're a great organization. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And I realized I started my timer when I talked. So that's why I went over, and that was my mistake. So I apologize. But I wanted to answer quickly the grind culture thing. So grind culture is something where naturally within workplaces everywhere else, what they do is they meets expectations is the new meets, never enough. You need to do more. You reach a goal and they're on to the next one. It's constant grow, 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 grow. And there's no time to sit and heal or to sit and take in. It's the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And a lot of us do that. Definitely, I can say in America here that we do that. So thank you for that question. And thank you everybody for coming. Madeline, your team, A++. It's always an honor to be here. And happy holidays to those that celebrate as well. I know we have a little festive background. It had to do it. Had to do it.
Wonderful. Well, until next time, friends, thank you so much and be well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.